Rowan, I have to come to you first with this one. Now, it's interesting to note this is the same federal court judge who found Andrew Bolt breached Section 18C of the Racial Discrimination Act. He also ran for ALP pre-selection. Does this decision establish a bit of a precedent, do you think?
Well, that's the goal. I'll tread carefully here because down in Victoria, in your failed Marxist state that you seem to increasingly be resembling, Peter, if you criticise judges' decisions, they try and lock you up for it. And they tried to do that with some of our politicians because what you see increasingly in Victoria, we saw it during the George Pell case, that ridiculous decision by the Court of Appeal where only one judge actually had the nous to realise that Pell was clearly innocent and the others went down an activist path. What you are seeing increasingly in Australia and particularly in Victoria is what's called activist judges. So these are political operatives who do their law degree, get a job in the law, work their way up the law, and it's what we call the long march through the institutions. You now have hardcore left-wingers making legal decisions. As I said, you have to speak carefully because in Victoria, as soon as you criticise them, they turn around and they throw the law back at you, so they can't kind of lose either way. But what we see with this insane decision here, Peter, and you mentioned that particular judge's previous CV ain't so flash, but what we're seeing here clearly is just nonsense. If you're going to say that the Environment Minister has a duty of care to future generations, well, you may as well sue the Treasurer and say he has a duty of care to make sure every business person in Australia makes a buck. You may as well sue, the Transport or the Trade Minister, because someone imported some dodgy products from China. I mean, it's just farcical, but you're right, it will become precedent and it will be used by all the usual suspects to say, oh, now this is legal proof that climate change exists. And the real farce here, Peter, is that he said that there was a kind of, he actually claimed that there were scientific studies that showed that man-made carbon dioxide was leading to this future catastrophe. No such studies actually exist, so I don't know where he got that one from.
Yeah, we're supposed to listen to the experts, and in climate change, that judge is not an expert, but we'll leave that one there. Prue, I want to go to you. A lot of talk about incentives to get people vaccinated. I think the lockdown's doing that job in Victoria, but Qantas, we're told today, will reportedly offer frequent flyer points for those who go and get their jab. Alan Joyce said he would make vaccination a condition of travel. We heard that last year when flying to countries other than New Zealand. What do you make of this, and will it work?
Well, I think, as you say, the imperative of, the actuality of the disease in Melbourne and the fact that suddenly Victorians are marshalling themselves and getting off their backsides and getting inoculated is probably the biggest incentive. And I imagine that's having repercussions around Australia. But I understand why businesses are doing it, particularly in the tourism business and in the airline business, where his business model relies on people having bums on seats, and he's lost billions of dollars already. There is a precedent, of course, in America. I saw on the news tonight in Ohio, there was $1 million lottery, and they were giving out scholarships for people to have vaccinations. So sadly, it seems ridiculous that people are needing some form of incentive to make sure that they maintain their health. But this is the way of the world at the moment.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I want to go to some pretty extraordinary vision for you, Rowan. Dozens of Melbourne-based travellers, they're on the iconic Ghan train, and they were booted off literally in the middle of the South Australian outback because of all the border closures. And of course, they were on the train when all of it happened. Channel 7's got footage. 44 Victorians shifted onto a bus in Marla. If you've been out that way, I've been on the Ghan through that sort of country. It's absolutely the middle of nowhere. They're going to have to quarantine in Alice Springs, we're told. This is madness. This is not one country anymore.
It is complete madness, and those pictures absolutely sum it up. There is no way the coronavirus is hovering around out there in the middle of the Nullarbor. The insanity of putting these people into 2 weeks quarantine at the same time as half of Victoria fled Victoria and came up to Queensland and New South Wales. Thanks, guys. the moment the lockdown was brought in. Just shows the insanity of internal lockdowns. Nowhere in the world do internal lockdowns have they been shown to work. In fact, they've been shown to be quite probably do more damage, do more harm than good. So seriously, future generations will look back on Victoria under Dan Andrews and just go, what an absolute farce, what a farce.
Yeah, we'll see what'll happen. Just a quick one to you, Prue. Jodie McKay, no other option, had to go?
Yeah, she had to go. The writing's on the wall. But how pathetic is it that, you know, Chris Minns doesn't have the numbers? You know, it's a total shambles and embarrassment for the Labor Party. And, you know, what Gladys just sits back and puts her feet up for the rest of the time. They will never recover from this before the next election. So, you know, it's just really sad indictment when we've got a poor opposition, we have poor government. And I think that's really sad for everybody in New South Wales.
There's oppositions around the country, let me tell you, down here in Victoria that could lift their game too. It's not just New South Wales. Rowan Dean, Prue McSween, have a great weekend. Thank you for being on the show.
You too, Peter, and stay safe.
Thanks, Peter.